until I get through it.
Okay, I think we're ready to start. Hello everyone, this is the 5th Epical Revelation Fellowship. I'm Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and it is September 1st, 2013, and we're going to continue on with our study of paper 120, Bestowals of Christ Michael on the Urantia. And then we're in section 2, paragraph 2, but I'm going to start with paragraph 1 so we know where we're at here. And I wanted to mention something I did in the morning session, and that is that Larry Mullins and Joan Bateson Mullins has created a new book called The Chronicles of the Life and Teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. And this is a wonderful book. It kind of melds the New Testament in with the Urantia book and tells the story of Jesus' life in a newspaper format. And it's got wonderful, wonderful pictures. That's from the movie, Franco Zeffirelli's movie of Jesus of Nazareth. And go buy it. It's good. You'll enjoy it. And if you'd like to, you can go out to the 5th Epical Revelation Fellowship.com website. In the right-hand corner at the top, there's a picture of the book. You can click on that, and it'll take you right to the link to find out information about the book. There's a little thing there. Okay, let's get going. Let's go through this first paragraph real quick so that it kind of brings us back to where we were last time before we left. Now, we might finish this paper today because it's pretty short. And for y'all listening on the video, you may hear some thunder and lightning in the background. That's not God mad at us. It's just thunderstorming here.
In every life, a little rain must fall.
Every life, a little rain must fall. That's right. Okay, Roy, would you take that first paragraph and let's start with that. We're just gonna. We did this last time, but we're gonna read it again. So we know where we're at.
Bestowal limitations. In accordance with the uses and conformities with the technique of Samaritan, in compliance with the mandate of the eternal Son of Paradise, I have provided in every way for your immediate interest upon this mortal bestower in harmony with the plan formulated by you and placed in my keeping by Gabriel. You will grow up on Urantia as a child of the realm. Complete your human education and all the while subject to the will of your Paradise Father. Live your life on Urantia as you have determined. Terminate your planetary sojourn and prepare for ascension to your Father to receive from Him supreme sovereignty of your universe.
Okay, we talked about this last week. How this is one of the this is his instructions of what he can and can't do during his bestowal, and they're talking about the technique of Samaritan. That is the technique of the Creator Sons, right? On Samaritan, that's the planet of the Creator Sons. So this is the standard for every bestowal that goes on. Okay, and let's keep moving because we went into detail on this last week, and if you want to hear more about that, you can go listen to the first one, right?
Number 2. Apart from your Earth mission and your and your universe revelation, but incidental to both, I counsel that you assume, after you are sufficiently self-conscious of your divine identity, the additional task of technically terminating the Lucifer rebellion in the system of Satania, and that you do all this as the Son of Man, thus as a mortal creature of the realm, in weakness made powerful by faith submission to the will of your Father. I suggest that you graciously achieve all you have repeatedly declined arbitrarily to accomplish by power and might when you were so endowed at the time of the inception of this sinful and unjustified rebellion. I would regard it as a fitting climax of your mortal bestowal if you should return to us as the Son of Man, planetary prince of Urantia, as well as Son of God, supreme sovereign of your universe. As a mortal man, the lowest type of intelligent creature in Nebadon, meet and adjudicate the blasphemous pretensions of Caligastia and Lucifer, and in your assumed humble estate, forever end the shameful misrepresentations of these fallen children of light. Having steadfastly declined to discredit these rebels through the exercise of your creator prerogatives, Now it would be fitting that you should, in the likeness of the lowliest of creatures of your creation, wrest dominion from the hands of these fallen sons, and so would your whole local universe in all fairness clearly and forever recognize the justice of your doing in the role of mortal flesh those things which mercy admonished you not to do by the power of arbitrary authority. And having thus by your bestowal established the possibility of the sovereignty of the Supreme in Nebadon, you will in effect have brought to a close the unadjudicated affairs of all preceding insurrections, notwithstanding the greater or lesser time lag involved in the realization of this achievement. By this act, the pending dissensions of your universe will be in substance liquidated, and with the subsequent endowment of supreme sovereignty over your universe, similar challenges to your authority can never recur in any part of your great personal creation.
There's a lot in this paragraph. Let's try to break it down really quickly. Okay. First he says, he asked him to technically terminate the Lucifer rebellion in the system of Satania, right? You know we're part of the system of Satania. And basically what he's asking him to do as a human, the Son of Man, he wants him to end this, right? He will be in weakness because he's a human. He won't be in power because he's not acting as the Creator Son, right? Okay. And he says he wants him to do this for this sinful and unjustified rebellion, right? He says it's a fitting climax to return to them the Son of Man and the planetary prince of Urantia. Did y'all see that?
Yep.
Who would normally be the planetary prince of Urantia?
Captain.
Calagasta, right? And since he rebelled, in essence, another son of God, right? A descending son of God must be the planetary
He
prince.
descended too far.
He descended too far, that's right. So, that is why we call Michael also the planetary prince, right? Okay. All right, and we'll keep going on. And the Son of God, supreme sovereign of the universe. That proves his sovereignty as a mortal man, right? And notice here it says he wants him to adjudicate the blasphemous pretensions of Calagasta and Lucifer in his humble estate, forever ending this shameful misrepresentation of the children of fallen in life. So, that's an important sentence. Why? Because the adjudicate, doesn't it? So what happened when Jesus was on earth and he met Lucifer and Calagasta on Mount Hermon, right? He ended the rebellion. He, as the sovereign of this universe, adjudicated Lucifer and Calagasta, did he not? So as far as the universe is concerned, they're already found what? In contempt, right, of the universe. So why are we waiting for the Ancients of Days? Because Michael has given all rights to the permanent dissemination of this adjudication to whom? The Ancients of Days, right? So that's what they're talking about, this time lag a little bit later. It takes a long period of time for any type of being to go through adjudication through the Ancients of Days if they've been found guilty of contempt of the universe, right? So, that's what we're waiting for. Now, is that going to happen quickly? Not likely. It might take a million years, but that's okay. The decision has already been made, hasn't it? They are guilty, any way you look at it, right? That's what they're talking about, this adjudication right here, okay? And it goes on to say that he steadfastly declined to discredit these rebels and exercise his creator prerogative. So he could have made this decision at any time, couldn't he? But he just chose not to until what? He finished his sovereignty, right? And then he made the decision, okay? And then he goes on to say he wanted them to wrest domain forever from the hands of the falling sons, which he did, right? Okay. Now, we don't, just because of the evil and the discontent and all these things going on this planet, does not mean that this planet has not been adjudicated, does it? It has been. So this is, what we're living in is what? The time lag of justice right now, if you think about it. We're in that in-between stage, okay? Eventually, the Ancients of Days are going to make decisions on all these beings, and at that point, we'll be one step closer to what? Like mind, right? It'll start clearing out. And all this evil and the results of this evil will slowly disappear over time. Probably take thousands and thousands of years, okay? Don't look for it to change overnight. It's not going to, right? Okay. And then he goes on to say he's established the sovereignty of Supreme in Nevedon, and that this will judge all preceding insurrections and all insurrections in the future, right? Because he's already proved his sovereignty. And it goes on to say, by this act, the pending dissensions of the universe will be in substance liquidated. In other words, it doesn't matter what else goes on. If people rebel, they'll be what? Terminated, right? Eventually. And then it goes on to say the final sentence. It says, similar challenges to your authority can never recur in any part of your great personal creation. So nowhere in Nevedon will there be rebellion again, right? So do you think we're safe going through the mansion worlds from this point? I think so. Because it can't happen again, can it?
Well, we can't say the devil made you do it.
That's right. Can't say the devil made
Devil
us
made you do
maybe
it.
do
Cliff
it.
Wilson. Devil made you do
Anymore.
it.
That's
But
right.
that
Well,
doesn't
good.
mean we're not gonna run into all types of beings that are not doing the right things.
Not in this world, no. In the world to come, that won't be the case, will it?
We won't.
When we get to the mansion worlds, we won't run into
Everybody,
rebellion.
right. We
Because-
still the process though.
We're in the process right here, right
Right.
now. But when you get to the mansion worlds, there will be no rebellion anymore. And the rebellion is terminated. As far
Right,
as
but
the-
there will be beings that have some work to do to correct their...
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So if we're hanging around with people that are alcoholics in the mansion world and they
They're
can't
gonna
have
have-
any drink.
That's
they're-
right. They're going to
missing
have
out.
a correction of their thought patterns, aren't they?
Yeah.
Not only that, is we take up where we leave off on this planet, don't we? So if we leave a planet full of sin and evil and discontent, don't you think we have,
Some carry on.
yeah, we're going to have some carryover. We take those habits with us, don't we? So we're going to, all these beings that get to the mansion worlds are going to have to be retrained and taught the error of their ways.
But we
Right.
lose. We lose the materialism.
We
The
do.
we lose all of that stuff that's so
Distracting.
Distracting
that
stuff.
distracting part of us,
Yeah.
that the needs of the flesh.
Yes.
uh,
But Roy, you can't get count on that too much because of what?
I want to
Because,
count on it. I want to count on that.
Yeah.
You get to
Let-
eat.
let me tell you why you can't.
I want to count on that. I want to lose this need.
I thought
It's
that only,
it's the thought patterns we have to retrain ourselves in. So if you've been thinking in the ways of sin and error your whole life, and you can still make it to the mansion world. So when you get to that mansion world, the celestial beings, the Melchizedeks and people like that, and us, have to retrain you in the ways to properly observe things, the ways to react to things. Like if you, on this planet, if you're mean to everybody that you walk into, you get to the mansion worlds, you're going to have problems, right? Because that's not an acceptable behavior. You'll be stuck on that first mansion
That's
world.
what I'm saying.
Oh, well,
Even
they
though
mess
it's like-
with us to
yeah.
teach us a lesson, like in the Twilight Zone. He says, I wish everybody in the world was just like me. And then the next thing he does, he sees everybody's like him, and they're all annoying,
Yeah.
and he decides he was wrong.
Yeah.
I do like nice people in the world.
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, wondering how obvious the lessons will be, if it will be like going to university and this is how it is, and they're showing you a film and they're
But
teaching you.
They put us
Or
together.
will they mess with you and say, well, let's put this jerk with this jerk and see what happens, and maybe they'll learn
I
something
think we
from
lose
it.
the jerk pod though when we get there.
Well,
I'm
you
speaking
still
out
have-
my language.
Remember, this is an experiential lesson, right? So for the Supreme to grow, you have to go through experiences. Okay? So when you get to the mansion worlds, your struggles are not completely over.
Exactly.
They're not. You're still going to go through
Well,
struggles.
so you might wake up on the mansion worlds and not even know that's where you are.
At
It's
first,
like a
that's
dream
right.
world that you have to
Step into.
You have to figure out.
You're not just going to wake up and you're sitting around, I'm playing my heart. You know? You're going to have jobs, you're going to have things that you have to do, and people you have to work with, and your experiences are going to be even more than here because we're dealing with humans here.
Right.
Yeah.
When we get to the mansion world, you're going to have to deal with all sorts of beings, right?
Corporation.
Corporations. That's right.
But I bet you there'll be classes, and it's probably going to be individually tailored for us to learn whatever lessons we didn't pick up here,
That's right.
because it's all about growing up
Growing.
to where we can advance out of this
That's right.
system.
I believe that you're right. There's a lot of people gonna be stuck with
That first
that
mansion world for a
corporation
while.
part of it.
That's right. Go off for a reason.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, let's keep going.
Number 3, when you have succeeded in terminating the Urantia secession, as you undoubtedly will, I counsel you to accept from Gabrielle the conference of the title of Planetary Prince of Urantia, as the eternal recognition by your universe of your final bestowal experience, and that you further do any and all things consistent with the purport of your bestowal, to atone for the sorrow and confusion brought upon Urantia by the Caligassi betrayal and the subsequent Adamic default.
Okay, there's that planetary prince thing again, right? And notice here it says, atone for the sorrow and confusion brought upon Urantia by the Caligassi betrayal and the subsequent Adamic default. Does it say atone for your sins there?
No.
Just thought I'd bring that up.
It's interesting that that word is here anyway, though.
Right.
Yeah,
Very
atonement.
interesting.
That's right. That's
Atone
right.
for the sorrow and confusion.
Sorrow and confusion brought on by the Caligassi betrayal, a son of whom? Caligassi was a son of Christ,
Mhm.
right? Michael, and the creative mother spirit, right?
Right. Right.
He's a descending son of God. Plus the Adamic default. Who's Adam? A material son of whom? Christ, Michael, and the creative mother spirit, right? So he's atoning from the confusion brought on by these two beings who are sons of his that created this problem. You follow me?
So he's
Mhm.
correcting
Children.
and setting
He's
the
correct.
record straight.
That's right. That's right.
Because they're his children.
Because his children. That's right. It's his responsibility to atone for the problems of his own children. Right? Why did he adjudicate them? Because it's his children. That's why. Lucifer was who? A son of Christ and the creative mother spirit. Okay? So who is it responsible to correct him? The Father. Who's the Father? Jesus. Right? Father of the
Christ
local, Christ Michael. The Father of the local universe. Right?
I have a question. When was Meshaventa made the vicegerent planetary prince? Was it when he was made the planetary prince?
Yeah. Shortly when he ascended to Senarrington, well, he ascended to God and came back. Really, when he completely finished, he was proclaimed planetary prince of Urantia, and Michael assigned Machiaventia as the vicegerent planetary prince.
Okay, so that's how that happened.
So he, in essence, Michael is still the planetary prince of Urantia.
Right.
Melchizedek acts in his stead,
Right.
right?
Because Christ Michael's busy.
Because he's busy running the rest of the universe, right? Yeah. Okay.
I'm wondering if this atone for the sorrow and confusion brought upon Urantia by the rebellion, if, I mean, in a way, this book is to help atone for it,
Yeah.
to help
It's a
raise us up, show us what we're supposed to have known all along.
It's a replacement atonement doctrine, isn't it?
Right, it's not, yeah,
If you think about it, right? The atonement is not what it is meant to be.
no.
Yeah. This is for the atonement of the mistakes of his children, right? So he's making a correction of the way they think, the way we act, and all that, so that we're on the right path to where? Paradise, right? And that's what the whole revealing of the Father's will was about, wasn't it? You know, you remember we talked about the 7 bestowals and how he revealed the will of the different combinations of the paradise deities during the different bestowals, and that's what the will of the Father is for this planet. So that's why he did it, right? Okay, let's go on to the next one.
In accordance with your request, Gabriel and all concerned will cooperate with you in the expressed desire to end your Urantia bestowal with the pronouncement of a dispensational judgment of the realm, accompanied by the termination of an age, the resurrection of the sleeping mortal survivors, and the establishment of the dispensation of the bestowed spirit of truth.
Okay, there's several things they're talking about here, okay? First, he had the bestowal, the Urantia bestowals, right? Okay, so that ended forever the sovereignty of Michael, right? The question of the sovereignty of Michael, right? All right. And then the pronouncement of a dispensational judgment of the realm. So all sleeping survivors, or all people that came from this moment in time previously, were judged, right? Mass judgment.
Busy day for them.
Busy day for the ancients of days, wouldn't you think? Okay. Accompanied by a termination of the age, that's what happens, right? Resurrection of sleeping mortal survivors. So in the book of Revelation, when they talk about souls coming up and going to heaven, that's what happened. It's just their souls, not their bodies, right? That's what they're talking about, the resurrection. That's what John was talking about in the book of Revelation. It was this. It wasn't into the future. It was this. It just happened, right? Okay.
You would 100 years after.
Yeah, yeah. And then this establishment of this dispensation of the bestowal of spirit of truth. 30 days after Christ is gone, what happens? Pentecost, bestowal of the spirit of truth. Who is what? The Spirit through the Son, down through the Creator Son. This is the Spirit of Michael. So when you pray to God, and which I do every Sunday before I have these meetings, I pray to God, I said, remove my mind, give me the mind of Michael. That's what the Spirit of truth is. When I speak, I want to speak for the Spirit of truth. I don't want to use my own mind. I don't want to use my opinions. I want to use the Spirit of truth. I want to use the Spirit of Michael. Right?
Too bad we don't all do that.
Well, that's what we need to do daily. You know, let us speak with the Spirit of truth, not with our own minds. Because I'm going to be in error all the time. I know that. You know, we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But if I ask for the Spirit of truth, hopefully the Spirit of truth will override my stupidity. Right?
This is the dispensation that we're in right now.
This is the dispensation we're in right now. Okay. Let's keep going. All right.
As concerned the planet of your bestowal and immediate generation of men living thereon at the time of your mortal sojourn, I counsel you to function largely in the role of a teacher. Give attention first to the liberation and inspiration of man's spiritual nature. Next, eliminate the darkened human intellect. Heal the soul of men and emancipate their mind from age-old fears. And then, in accordance with your mortal wisdom, minister to the physical well-being and the material comfort of your brothers in the flesh. Live the ideal religious life for the inspiration and edification of all your universe.
Okay, so first, he was to liberate and inspire man's spiritual nature, right? What a wonderful concept. And next, eliminate the darkened human intellect and heal the souls of men. Does that still not need done today?
Yes.
It does. In fact, I wish he had a Twitter account.
Yeah, really.
Seriously, if he came now,
Yeah.
I mean, with the internet and all,
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
would know it.
Yeah.
They couldn't have murdered him.
They could. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. But we need that darkened nature gotten rid of, don't we? Okay. Emancipate the minds from age-old fears. What is our number one age-old fear?
Fear of God.
The fear of God.
That's something.
The fear of God.
Well, it's just means
Well,
like a
and the
parent.
fear of-
You want your children to do what you say. You don't want them to fear you. You want them to respect you. And that's what we need to do, respect God and therefore behave, because we want God to love us and respect us and to be proud of us.
And we were
Not
just
fearful of the fact that, you're gonna be as if you never were if you keep misbehaving.
That's right. And we were just talking about this morning, weren't we? About how stupidity and ignorance has kept us in a dark age since the beginning of time, hadn't it? In the churches, hasn't they?
Yes.
We got this concept that God was wrathful and
Exactly.
mean and horrible and going to send us to hell.
Vengeful.
Vengeful,
God
right?
brought you into this world, He'd take you out.
Age-old fears,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that's what we need liberation from, right? We got church after church after church that's living in this and teaching this day after day after day, and we need to liberate them from
Exactly.
this and have them teach about the love of God and the health of God and growing in the will of God, right? We need to replace that fear message with a message of love, right? Okay. And according to his mortal wisdom, minister to the physical well-being, which he did, didn't he? Healed the sick, that sort of thing. And give us a ideal religious life. He did all these things, didn't he? Okay.
You tried.
He tried to. All right. Who's next here? Linda?
Oh, it's my turn? On the planet of your bestowal, set rebellion segregated man spiritually free. On Urantia, make a further contribution to the sovereignty of the Supreme, thus extending the establishment of this sovereignty throughout the broad domains of your personal creation. In this, your material bestowal in the likeness of the flesh, you are about to experience the final enlightenment of a time-space creator, the dual experience of working within the nature of man and the will of your paradise Father. In your temporal life, the will of the finite creature and the will of the infinite creator are to become as one, even as they are also uniting in the evolving deity of the Supreme Being. Pour out upon the planet of your bestowal the spirit of truth, and thus make all normal mortals on that isolated sphere immediately and fully accessible to the ministry of the segregated presence of our Paradise Father, the thought adjusters of the realms.
Okay. Do y'all see the importance of understanding the Supreme there? This is what I was talking about. To understand this book, you understand the life of Christ, you have to understand what comes at the beginning of the book. And that's what we're talking about, the Supreme here. The sovereignty of the Supreme. We know that we live within the sovereignty of the Supreme now, don't we? We know that our experience, just like Christ's experience, adds to what? The experience of the Supreme and the sovereignty of the Supreme, right? So when Jesus constantly refers to the deity of the Supreme and the sovereignty of the Supreme, we know what they're talking about now, don't we? It's just not empty words, okay? And it goes on to say here that through his bestowal, okay, he'll be working with a dual experience, the nature of the will of man and the will of the Paradise Father. Is that not what we do every day? We have to balance our will with what the will of the Father is, right? So this is the example he's giving us, okay? And becoming one, even as they are so uniting in the deity of the Supreme Being. What are they talking about here? They're talking about the Supreme Being uniting with whom? The Trinity. The thought adjuster is to us what the Trinity is to the Supreme. Okay? Our experience goes into the Father, right? That's the Father fragment. The Supreme's experience goes into what? The Trinity, right? That's how it works. We're just mimicking deity. That's all we're doing. Okay? And that's what he's giving us example of. And then it goes on to say, they want him to pour out the bestowal of the Spirit of truth, making all mortals fully accessible to the ministry of the Paradise Father and thought adjusters. Now remember, when the Spirit of truth is poured out on all the world, this is Christ's Spirit, right? It prepared all mankind for the coming of the adjusters. Before then, men either had to make that moral decision to survive for the adjuster to come or ask for the adjuster to come. You follow that? But after the Spirit of truth was poured out, it came automatically at age around 5, 5.5. Okay? That's what they're talking about here. So, it says, make all normal mortals on that isolated sphere immediately and fully accessible to the ministry of the segregated presence of our Paradise Father and the thought adjusters. Right? That's what they're talking about here. Okay. Here we go.
In all that you may perform on the world of your bestowal, bear constantly in mind that you are living a life for the instruction and edification of all your universe. You are bestowing this life of mortal incarnation upon Urantia. But you are to live such a life with the spiritual inspiration of every human and superhuman intelligence that has lived, now exists, or may yet live on every inhabited world which is now formed, or may yet form, a part of the vast galaxy of your administrative domain. Your earth life in the likeness of mortal flesh should not be so lived as to constitute an example for the mortals of Urantia in the days of your earthly sojourn, nor for any subsequent generation of human beings on Urantia or on any other world. Rather shall your life in the flesh on Urantia be the inspiration for all lives upon all Nebudon worlds throughout all generations and the ages to come.
So is this bestowal just for us?
No, and that's quite a task
the
right
universe.
there.
Quite a
Oh,
task,
you
isn't it?
Well, it's
can
on
never
universe.
misbehave, no lying, no cheating, no stealing,
Yeah.
no goofing off.
It's for the whole universe.
For
All
watching,
types of beings.
For all time.
For all time. For all those coming, all those that's been.
See, thinks anybody analyze every little thing he ever did and say, that's all right there, you had it. You
That's
thought
not
about
very
it
godly.
much."
That's right. That's right.
I heard what you said about him behind his back.
Yeah. Well, we've all had discussions about whether something we do or something we're about to do or anything is the proper things to do. But think of Christ. He lived this life for all beings of all times. He had to watch every single word that came out of his mouth, because every single word, I'm sure, number one, was recorded by the heavenly recorders, right? This would be watched by all universes, all time, over and over and over. And it'd be like having that recording going 24 hours a day in your life, because you know all the beings of your universe. Once you get to the
Truman
mansion
Show.
worlds, yeah, you've got every being of the universe watching you 24 hours a day during the sojourn. Now that same thing happened on what? The 6 previous bestowals, so that when we get to the mansion worlds, we can review these and experience these just like Christ did.
So,
So,
watch.
watch. Yeah.
Of course, that means new significance to when he had a fit at the temple and threw out the money change, because that's the one time we saw where he really lost his temper and showed anger. So he was making a real point there.
He was making a point there.
He was genuinely angry at the way the religious people of the time had tainted spirituality and were messing up the spiritual lives of all the people.
That's right, and he considered it a blasphemous thing for them to do, didn't he?
Right.
Okay. They were blaspheming his father. They were throwing this up in the face of his father, and that angered him. Right? Okay. And that I think that would be a justified anger. I really do.
Righteous indignation.
Righteous indignation. You got that right. Okay.
8. Your great mission to be realized and experienced in the mortal incarnation is embraced in your decision to live a life incarnately motivated to do the will of the Paradise Father, thus to reveal God, your Father, in the flesh, and especially to the creatures of the flesh. At the same time, you will also interpret with a new enhancement our Father to the supermortal beings of all Nebudon. Equally with this ministry of new revelation and augmented interpretation of the Paradise Father to the human and the superhuman type of mind, you will also so function as to make a new revelation of man to God. Exhibit in your one short life in the flesh, as it has never before been seen in all Nebudon, the transcendent possibilities attainable by a God-knowing human during the short career of mortal existence, and make a new and illuminating interpretation of man and the vicissitudes of his planetary life, to all the superhuman intelligences of all Nemenon and for all time. You are to go down to Urantia in the likeness of mortal flesh, and living as a man in your day and generation, you will so function as to show your entire universe the ideal of perfected technique and the supreme engagement of the affairs of your vast creation. The achievement of God seeking man and finding him, and the phenomenon of man seeking God and finding him, and doing all of this to mutual satisfaction, and doing it during one short lifetime in the flesh.
So he's just spelling out what he was supposed to do, wasn't he? Basically saying, this is your job. It's a big undertaking, you know, and he took it on willingly, you know, and to live a God-knowing life and a God-revealing life, all in one life in the flesh. Whew, what a responsibility that would be to think about. Okay. We'll take the next one.
I caution you ever to bear in mind that while in fact you are to become an ordinary human of the realm, in potentiality you will remain a created son of the Paradise Father. Throughout this incarnation, although you will live and act as a son of man, the creative attributes of your personal divinity will follow you from Sabaton to Urantia. It will ever be within your power or will to terminate the incarnation at any moment subsequent to the arrival of your thought adjuster. Prior to the arrival and reception of the adjuster, I will vouch for your personal integrity, but subsequent to the arrival...
Hang on.
Personality
That's
integrity.
Personality.
That's
integrity.
different. Yeah, that's his personality itself. Why is that, Roy? Because
Prior to the
from,
arrival and reception.
from birth to 5.5 years old,
Personality. What did I say? Personal?
yeah, personality. Yeah, but see, it's his personality they're talking about because till 5 years old, he had no thought adjuster,
Oh, okay.
right? And he was a baby. You know, he was a child like every other child. So they had to watch out for him until the thought adjuster arrived to protect him, right? You think about how
Well, they
dangerous
probably
it
had
is.
to watch over him the whole time.
The whole
because,
time, yeah.
I mean, it's like they must have picked a body that was going to be healthy enough to do
Yeah,
this, first
yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Besides the family that would
The
take
family
care
that
of
would
him
take
if they
care of him
needed
and that sort.
a
That's
healthy
right.
body.
That's
I'll
right.
see if he's been autistic, that would have
Yeah.
been a real problem.
Yeah, but I wanted to bring out that point, the danger of this before his thought adjuster arrived, right? Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
But subsequent to the arrival of your adjuster and concomitance with your progressive recognition of the nature and importance of your bestowal mission, you should refrain from the formulation of any superhuman will to attainment, achievement, or powers in view of the fact that your creator prerogative will remain associated with your mortal personality because of the inseparability of these attributes from the personal presence. But no superhuman repercussion will attend your earthly career apart from the will of the Paradise Father, unless you should, by an act of conscious and deliberate will, make an undivided decision which would terminate in whole personality choice.
Okay, so let's talk about this for just a second. We have a creator son who is made flesh, made human. Does that take away his creator prerogatives? No. He's still the creator son. So he had to be very careful about what he willed into existence, right?
Right.
Because the will of the creator son is like the will of God, okay? Especially if he keeps along with the will of God. If he wants something bad enough, it's his universe, right? He can do anything he wants. But what will happen when he makes a decision for something to happen, all of the celestial beings that he has created in his local universe will go to work to make this happen. That's their job, right?
Water and wine.
Water into wine, that sort of thing, right? Okay? It involved mechanical physical controllers, you know, all these other beings were involved in this, right? So he has to make a conscious, a totally conscious decision to will something into existence for this to happen. So the other side of that is he can't just on his own, thinking about it, he can't say, I want this, and it appears, can he? It would seem like magic to everyone around him, If he wanted grapes, and poof, the celestial, the grapes appeared, it would be magic, wouldn't it?
Be really cool.
It would be like, yeah,
Genie in the bottle.
genie in the bottle. That's right. But this is a creator son, and that sort of thing is possible. They can take non-matter and make matter out of it, right? So he has to be very careful that he only does the things that's within the will of the universal Father. Because what is he supposed to do on this bestowal?
Show us how to live a life dedicated
to the will of the Father. That's right. That's his whole goal here, right? And that's why it says here, an undivided decision would terminate in whole personality choice. He must choose if he wants to do something outside the will of the Father, right? Okay. That way accidents don't happen like they did with the water of the wine, right?
Just looking at them evil priests and then they'll just turn into
That's right. Yeah.
flaming fire, disappear.
Yeah.
What the hell? Okay, whatever you say. I'll behave.
Okay, further counsel and advice.
And now, my brother, in taking leave of you, as you prepare to depart for Urantia, and after counseling you regarding the general conduct of your bestowal, allow me to present certain advices that have been arrived at in consultation with Gabriel, and which concern minor phases of your mortal life. We further suggest...
Okay, now remember this is who talking to him? Emmanuel.
Emmanuel.
Right? Okay, that's what he's talking about, my brother, right? Okay, so let's go on. Go ahead and read that first, too.
We further suggest, number one, that in the pursuit of the ideal of your mortal earth life, you also give some attention to the realization and exemplification of some things practical and immediately helpful to your fellow man.
So they suggest that he does some things that'll further the progression of the humankind, don't they? Right. Okay. Dawn, would you take the next one?
Number 2, as concerns family relationships, give precedence to the accepted customs of family life as you find them established in the day and generation of your bestowal. Live your family and community life in accordance with the practices of the people among whom you have elected to appear.
So whose practices would that be? The Jewish nation at that particular time. Would this be an example for all the other planets for his family life? No. Why? Because unless they had a family life that was similar to the Jewish nation, it would not apply. But what will he do here? He will show the customs of family love, honor, that sort of thing that's in every universe, right?
Working together.
Working together, that's right. The accepted norms for all universes, right? Okay, all right.
3, in the relations to the social order, we advise that you confine your efforts largely to spiritual regeneration and intellectual emancipation. Avoid all entanglements with the economic structure and the political commitments of your day. More especially devote yourself to living the ideal religious life on Urantia.
Okay, so he's supposed to stay away from politics, wasn't he? Totally. And he was tempted not to several times, wasn't he?
They begged him to.
They begged him to get involved with the zealots,
They
didn't
didn't
they?
want to be a businessman either.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He
CEO.
had to be very careful on which profession he chose, didn't he? Okay.
On the, wait a minute, is it my reading?
Yeah.
Yes.
Under no circumstances, and not even in the least detail, should you interfere with the normal and orderly progressive evolution of the Urantia race. But this prohibition must not be interpreted as limiting your effort to leave behind you on Urantia an enduring and improved system of positive religious ethics. As a dispensational son, you are granted certain privileges pertaining to the advancement of the spiritual and religious status of the world peoples.
Okay, so he could not make any world changes or changes that would affect the whole world, because it would affect what? Our evolution, our normal evolution, right? So would he come in and change all the political aspects of the planet? No, that's not why he's here. He's here to live a religious life a God-loving life and the will of the Father. So he's not going to come in and show us how to run the government, is he?
So he couldn't fulfill what the Jewish people were hoping for, and be the Messiah, the King of the Jews, smite their enemies, put them on top of the world.
That's right. That's exactly right. Under any circumstances. It says under no circumstances. You see this? So it was probably one of those aspects in the orders of Samaritan for the Creator's sons not to do this. Okay? And they were doing rules. Remember in Star Trek that, you know, they had the first order number 1 or whatever, you cannot interfere with the evolution of the planet. It's the same principle. All planets must evolve at their own rate, right? Now, this is interesting because what? We all wish that Christ would come back and say, I'm God, you guys that are running the things, you're out of here. You know, that's what we'd like to see. But will that happen? No. It's going to be a normal evolutional thing where people are replaced, but better people will run the show, right? Over time.
We all have to grow up.
We all have to grow up. That's
And
exactly
it's,
right.
we have free will, so we all individually have to choose that.
That's right. And how do we do that? We have to do it by masses, right? You do that with your vote, don't you? You try to get the best people in running your country and that sort of thing. You know, and that's hard to do, isn't it? Yeah. She's going, yeah, of course it is. All right.
The right people don't want to run for office.
That's right. They don't. You don't blame them either, do you?
No, it's going to be a cartoon and everything.
That's right. Okay. 5. Okay.
5. As you may see fit, you are to identify yourself with existing religious and spiritual movements as they may be found on Urantia, but in every possible manner seek to avoid the formal establishment of an organized cult, a crystallized religion, or a segregated ethical grouping of mortal beings. Your life and teachings are to become the common heritage of all religions and all peoples.
Now, did that happen after he left?
Yes.
Yes. It did. didn't it?
Crystallized.
Crystallized religion, right? It went from the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, the Christian church, right, to what? The Christian church as we know it, right? So we went from Christ's concept to Paul's gospel, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's really what happened. And Peter was not strong enough to keep that from happening, was he? Right?
Well, they had their own indoctrinated teachings, which made it hard for them to get out of what they already were taught, the male
That's right.
chauvinism and
Yeah,
the backwardness.
yeah. And we're still pretty backward, aren't we? I mean, you think about it. Okay? But it says here, your life and teachings are to become the common heritage of all religions and all peoples. So does Jesus' message belong to every church? Yes, it does. To every type of religion? Yes, it does. Right? No one has the monopoly on Christ, do they? And that is what this book is about, right?
Even the Quran mentions Christ.
Oh yeah, yeah, it does.
But you can also see how misleading some of the things in the Bible are as far as his time here and what was meant to happen and what really happened.
It is. It really is. It's amazing. It really
And how easy it is for us to get off track.
get off track. That's right. Okay. All right.
Number 6, to the end that you may not unnecessarily contribute to the creation of subsequent stereotype systems of Urantia religious beliefs or other types of non-progressive religious loyalties, we advise you still further. Leave no writings behind you on the planet. Refrain from all writing upon permanent materials. Enjoin your associates to make no images or other likenesses of yourself in the flesh. See that nothing potentially idolatrous is left on the planet at the time of your departure. Like
Okay,
the
so
cross, which they still try to say, oh, this is a piece of the original cross.
that's right. Now you see why Jesus went back to his shop and destroyed all his writings he put on the wall for his children, his brothers and sisters, don't you? Yeah.
I have a question. Why, when he traveled the Mediterranean, was one of the names that he was known as the scribe of Damascus? Scribes write things.
So
So
well, he
what
was
is-
a teacher then.
Yeah, he was traveling around
Yeah.
and he was teaching. And
Yeah,
he wanted to have a kind of an anonymous name.
yeah.
He was, it wasn't him traveling around, he was traveling around with somebody, so he was kind of stepping back and didn't want anybody to know who he was.
Yeah. Plus, the church never found out that he was the scribe of Damascus, did they? We only knew that when this book came out.
But here's my bigger point. The Midwayers writing this section to us, they know very well what word they're using there.
Oh, sure.
The scribe of Damascus. That's a very specific word.
It's someone who writes. He
That's
basically
right,
writes
someone
things
who
down.
writes.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering what else do they mean there? There's something underlying there.
I don't know.
Which he did get and write our religion.
Well, they
So
did
he
collect
did-
writings and put them together in,
Yeah.
in a, like in a
Right.
book for gaming.
Right.
From Alexandria.
Yeah.
Right.
So. All right, let's keep going.
While you live the normal and average social life of the planet, being a normal individual of the male sex, you will probably not enter the marriage relation, which relation would be wholly honorable and consistent with your bestowal. But I must remind you that one of the incarnation mandates of Senarrington forbids the leaving of human offspring behind on any planet by a bestowal son of paradise origin.
So we know there's no heir of Christ,
Right.
don't we? Okay, because it's not allowed by the mandates of
The
Samaritan.
Da Vinci Code says so.
Yeah, okay. But he could have married if he chose to, couldn't he? Or had a relationship with a woman.
It's, so it was, it was,
It was personal choice.
oh,
But,
right.
and when he was a material son, he didn't get to have sexual relationships either.
No.
So all the
Does he
speculation.
have to go to the class that teaches us about
He
normal
created-
relations?
He created that class.
No.
Right?
We're supposed to be getting some.
Well, it's interesting that it says you will probably not enter the marriage relation.
Probably not.
But there
That
was a
means he
woman
didn't-
hot for him.
So he didn't experience that part of it.
No.
Now,
So
why
I
would
think
that
he
be?
missed out on-
Because you think about it, his total being and everything he did was concentrating on teaching the will of God, right? So he put that before what? All relationships.
Right.
Notice before he went on his mission, he took care of his parents, or his mother. He took care of their kids, their
Right.
children, right? He made sure that they all had financial stability so that he could leave, right, but from his brothers and sisters.
Ease himself out of that parental
So he's
role.
out of that parental role, that's right. So his total being and thought patterns and everything else was totally concentrating on doing the will of God in his life and teaching that religious life for his beings, right? So he didn't have time for relationships, did he? You think about
Well,
it.
he couldn't have dedicated himself to being
No.
a husband and providing for their
No.
family and all
No.
that.
No, he was too busy doing other things.
Yeah.
Okay, we have, let me look here.
Besides, I guess we would have had all universe for all time watching him fool around, and that wouldn't have
We
been
just have 3 paragraphs left.
3 paragraphs. Okay, let's go ahead and get through this.
All
That's
right.
all right with everybody. Okay.
In ready?
Yeah.
In all other details of your oncoming bestow, you should commit. We will commit you to the leading of the indwelling adjuster, the teacher of the ever-present divine spirit of human guidance, and the reasoned judgment of your expanding human mind of hereditary endowment. Such an association of creature and creator attribute will enable you to live for us the perfect life of man on the planetary sphere. Not necessarily perfect as regard by any one man in any one generation on any one world, much less on Urantia, but wholly and supremely replete as evaluated on the more highly perfected and perfecting worlds of your far-flung universe.
So he was living a perfect life, and it might not seem perfect to our concept of the perfect life, right? He was doing it for the universe, not our concepts, right? So that's what we're talking about, the perfect life. Okay.
And now may your Father and my Father, who has ever sustained us in all past performances, guide and sustain you and be with you from the moment you leave us and achieve the surrender of your consciousness and personality throughout your gradual return to recognition of your divine identity incarnate in human form, and then on through the whole of your bestowal experience on Urantia until your deliverance from the flesh and your ascension to our Father's right hand of sovereignty. When I shall again see you on Salvington, we shall welcome your return to us as the supreme and unconditional sovereign of this universe of your own making, serving, and completed understanding.
So they were totally confident he would finish this, right? Okay.
In your stead I now reign. I assume jurisdiction of all Nebuchadnezzar as acting sovereign during the interim of your seventh immortal bestowal on Urantia. And to you, Gabriel, I commit the safekeeping of the Son of Man, about to be, until he shall presently and in power and glory return to me as the Son of Man and the Son of God. And Gabriel, I am your sovereign until Michael thus returns.
So he makes no question about it that I am the ruler till you come back, right?
And it's nice that Gabriel watched over.
Yeah, that's
Took care of
awesome
him.
right there.
That's
Made
right.
sure that Lucifer and Caligas, you
Couldn't
never
get
messed with
going.
him when he was at the little
Because
kid.
Herod, the ruler, was
Herod.
Herod, yeah. I know it started with H. You know, that time trying to kill him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then immediately in the presence of all Salvington assembled, Michael removed himself from our midst, and we saw him no more in his accustomed place until his return as the supreme and personal ruler of the universe, subsequent to the completion of his bestowal career on Urantia.
Okay, and that finishes that section. Now, I'd like to go ahead and finish this, if that would be okay with everybody. It's 3 or 4 paragraphs? Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, would that be okay with
Yeah,
you?
that's fine.
And that way we can start at the beginning of the last time. Okay, the incarnation, making 2 one.
And so certain unworthy children of Micah, who have accused this their creator, father, of selfishness, seeking rulership and indulging in insinuation. Did I say that right?
Insinuation.
Insinuation that the creator's son was arbitrarily and autocratically upheld in power by virtue of unreasonable loyalty of a deluded universe of subversive creatures, were to be silenced forever and left confounded and delusioned by the life of self-forgetful service which the Son of God now and upon as the Son of Man, all the while subject to the will of the Paradise Father.
So he put everyone to shame, didn't he? I mean, you think about it. All these other beings that had started all this rebellion, said, I will show you how to live this perfect
Calls
life.
them the unworthy children.
Unworthy children. That's right. Not worthy of this love, right? Okay.
But make no mistake, Christ Michael, while truly a dual origin being, was not a double personality. He was not God in association with man, but rather God incarnate in man. And he was always just that combined being. The only progressive factor in such a non-understandable relationship was the progressive self-conscious realization and recognition by the human mind of this fact of being God and man.
So the only thing unusual about this is he was a human being and he realized he was God the Creator's son.
That was
right.
a progressive factor.
Progressive factor.
And everybody else that thinks that just has big head syndrome.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Okay. Ron, we'll take the next one.
Christ Michael did not progressively become God. God did not at some vital moment in the earth life of Jesus become man. Jesus was God and man, and always and even forevermore. And this God and this man were and now are one, even as the Paradise Trinity of the 3 beings is in reality one deity.
So they couldn't change who he was when he had this incarnation, could they? He was still Christ Michael, the Father of our universe, God in man, right?
And we still have people who doubt that he was God.
Was God. That's right.
That he was always God.
That's right.
Never lose sight of the fact that the supreme spiritual purpose of the Michael bestowal was to enhance the revelation of God.
Okay, so his whole whole purpose was to enhance God to us, right? All right.
Urantia mortals have varying concepts of the miraculous, but to us who live as citizens of the local universe, there are a few miracles. And of these, by far the most intriguing are the incarnational bestowal of the Paradise Son.
Incarnational.
Incarnational
Yeah.
bestowal of the Paradise Son. The appearance in and on your world by apparent a natural process of a divine Son. We regard as a miracle. The operations of universal law beyond our understanding. Jesus of Nazareth was a miraculous person.
So to the rest of the universe, there's very, very few miracles, isn't there? And this was truly a miracle in itself. We take the last one?
In and through all this extraordinary experience, God the Father chose to manifest himself, as he always does, in the usual way, in the normal, natural, and dependable way of divine acting.
So God the Father acted through what? God the Son. Right? His Creator's Son. He acted through the Son. Okay? Is that a wonderful beginning to this life of Christ? Let's say a little prayer and we'll stop for today. Father, thank you for bringing us together and allowing us time together like this. And we thank you for this knowledge of your Son, Jesus, Michael, and his bestowal on this earth. And pray that you'll bless this group as we start to involve ourselves in learning what he did in his daily life, that we might again learn from him and make your will our will. We thank you and we give you the praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for joining us.
I watched a show the other day on History Channel about early life of Jesus, and they showed this cave where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and on the ceiling